And welcome back to the Quick Focus Blueprint program. I am so excited that we are here together. It's been about a week, and how's your focus? How is your focus? As we check in right now, are you focused right now on our conversation we're about to have? Or is your mind somewhere else? Is your focus of attention thinking about the day or things that have happened already today? What I'm asking you to do for the short period of time that we're together here is you could do physical activities like walk around and jog and work out and kind of clean up the home, things like that. But I'm going to ask you to be mentally, cognitively focused on this subject because this session is probably as valuable as any other day we're going to spend together. Up to this point, we've talked about a lot, right? This past week, we talked about having a focus journal, that if your life is worth living, it's worth reflecting and capturing and creating notes for yourself. Specifically, we talked about your GPA, your big goal in terms of what your focus goal will be, the purpose behind that goal, and the action steps, which is really this program. It's the focus blueprint, if you will, the step-by-step map and recipe that you're going to activate. And so we cover more of the actions every single day. We talked about one of the actions is not having a to-do list. Having a to-do list, but having a not to-do list, right? And again, what we're talking about here is, and when I go through this really quick review, and I don't go through every single point because you could always re-listen to those days, and absolutely you can do that. The reason I do it, though, it's called spaced repetition. It helps to reinforce with interval review. We talked about a not to-do list as when you say no to something, you can say yes to other things. So really, if you say no to all the other options, that one option is the only thing that's left that you must do. We talked about the Pomodoro technique, which says that your focus really, for the most part, is limited to about 25 minutes and to set an alarm and then take these brain breaks throughout the day. It creates more primacy and recency that allows you to focus and retain and learn. We talked about things that could distract you, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. We talked about 3 different things, distracting foods and the foods to eat. We talked about distracting thoughts, which could be an issue for a lot of people. Negative self-talk. Oh, I have a horrible time focusing. I can't always get distracted. I'm just too old, or I'm just not smart enough, or whatever those negative thoughts are. And we talked also about the last thing, which is distracting, which is being too sedentary, meaning sitting all the time and not moving. And we talked about different movements that you could do to activate your brain and your concentration. Now, in this, we talked about So we talked about foods, you are what you eat. We talked about your thoughts, like, part of us believe that we're part of who we are. Part of who we are is our thoughts and our self-talk. Another part of who we are is who we spend time with. And that's going to be the focus of this conversation here. And again, some of the things that I cover over this month together is it's not meant to be brand new. What it's meant to be is to remind you what you already know and to remind you the things that you know and maybe encourage you in a different way to be able to understand it deeper by employing it and applying it. And so there's this phrase that says, tell me who you spend time with and I will tell you who you are. It was the old adage is, tell me with whom you consort with and I will tell you who you are. And Seneca wrote a very long time ago, choose someone whose way of life as well as words and whose very face as mirroring the character that lies behind it have won your approval. Be always pointing him out to yourself either as your guardian or as your model. There is a need, in my view, for someone as a standard against which our characters can measure themselves. Without a ruler to do it against, you won't make crooked straight. And those were written centuries ago by Seneca. And so most recently in the personal development field, the phrase that we always hear is by Jim Rohn. And he said that we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So the idea here from a neurological standpoint is I'm not just talking about your neurological networks, like your brain networks, or your biological networks. I'm talking about your social networks. Because this is the thing. The reality is it's not your biology that's going to influence you whether or not certain habits you have, like eating or smoking. it's more connected to your social networks. Like, for example, if your friend's friend smokes, you're more likely to smoke. Okay. And one of the reasons why, from a neurological standpoint, is we have these things called mirror neurons, and this is kind of like how children learn. They learn through imitation. They pick up. It's remember you know this if you're a parent that it's not what you say, it's what you do because that's what they're really paying attention to. And you know that also because it's not so much what you say, it's how you say it, and also it's our body in terms of how we're using congruency. And so the reason why I'm bringing this up specifically in this session is when it comes to relationships, we are greatly influenced, whether we want to or not, by the people closest to us. It affects our way of thinking, it affects our self-esteem, it affects the decisions that we make, it affects our beliefs, it affects our behaviors, and it affects our focus. And so what I want to do in this conversation is just to sensitize you, to help you become more aware of who drains you and who uplifts you. I've said for years that I believe that there are two kinds of people. There's some people that batteries are included, like toys, right? Batteries are included. And some people you meet and you're like, where the battery's not included in this version, and they take all of your energy. And so are you spending time with a positive peer group? Because that's really the focus gem here today. Positive peer group, because that's one of the things that you need to have a very quick brain, as we call it. To be able to learn faster, to be able to achieve more. You want to be able to be around people who challenge you, people who educate you, people who inspire you, people who raise your standard. And this doesn't have to be everybody, because I realize that sometimes the ones who love us the most are the ones who sometimes can hold us back. And it's not because they don't love you, whether it's family or friends, it's just because sometimes, and it's different for each person, but for example, one of the reasons it could be is just people don't want to see you advance because they're afraid of losing you. And it's an amygdala thing. It's fight or flight. People are like, you're going and listening to another podcast, you're going to another conference. Why are you always reading those books and all those different things? And maybe those people love you, but they just don't want to see you change or maybe grow, because either they feel like they're going to lose you, or because it creates contrast, meaning the human mind understands things through comparison. And when you are making change and you're transforming, it creates a gap. And some people could either feel afraid of losing you, or maybe a fear of that you become more significant. And regardless, my thing here is you could choose. And that's really the bottom line for this program, is you have a decision. You could always decide what to focus on. You could always decide who has influence in your life. And I know I've used this metaphor before, but I talk about the difference between a thermometer and a thermostat. That a thermometer, the function of a thermometer, it reflects the functionality, it feedbacks what the environment is giving it, right? But the thermostat is different. A thermostat sets a standard, it sets a goal, it sets a dream, it sets a temperature, and the environment changes. And so we're all thermometers at some point. We all react to things like the weather or how our friends treat us. And so nobody is invulnerable there. But to the degree you want happiness and fulfillment, according to the research, says that you want to maintain as much as you can the locus of control, meaning your happiness is coming from within. I tell people, I get tagged in this quote every single day, but that, metaphor of like an egg, and you've heard me say this before, but just as a reminder that if an egg is broken by an outside force, life ends. But if it's broken by an inside force, life begins. And so all great things begin on the inside. And so our friend Brendan Burchard says that your life gets changed one of two ways. Either something new comes into your life, right? A new opportunity, a new person, a new knowledge or an idea, or something new comes out of you, right? A new level of courage, a new level of compassion, a new level of discipline, and then work ethic and caring. And so my main thing here is you could love your friends, you could love your family, but you could choose your positive peer group. right? Because part of what keeps your brain active is being around people who inspire you. And it doesn't have to be every single person, but I'm saying you could choose wisely. And you could know a lot of people, but you can't be really close to a lot of people, right? Because we all have a certain level of focus. Most people have a handful of really like 4 or 5, upwards of 7 close people in their life. But past that, it's hard to really keep track of everybody, absent social media in terms of getting people's updates. But I would ask you to survey your relationships in your life. And are you spending time with people? Ask yourself these questions, basic questions. You could come up with a lot more. And as we were wrapping up this session, and you could write it down in the comments section, because I love that area, because that's where we're interacting. We're talking about tribes, we're talking about community, we're talking about focus, buddies, if you will. This community is full of them, right? And so people who are of kindred mind and kindred hearts, right? Growing minds and giving hearts. So here's some questions just to ask about some people in your life. Do they challenge you to be better? Do they call you out on the things that you're doing that are incongruent or your own challenges, right? They don't let you like just settle. Are they an example of a kind of person that you want to be in terms of characters or integrity? Do they question you in a kind way? Not nice like placate to you and tell you what you want to hear, but do they question you from a place of caring? Do they root for your dreams and successes, and do they mourn with you, and are they there for your falls, and your quote unquote failures? Do they introduce you to new education and empower you and new ideas? Do they share your struggles? Those kind of things. And so there could be a lot of more here, and I'm going to ask you to put in the comments like your standards, like what makes a positive peer group for you. What does that situation look like for you? Do you have somebody close in your life like that? And I would say 3 takeaways right now. 3 things. Number 1 is to find a focused friend. We're early in this program right now. Somebody that maybe you could do this program with, or even if they're not going through the program with you, that you could share every single day and tell them, hey, this is what I learned today. I'm going through this quick focus blueprint program for 30 days. My goal is to improve my focus and concentration. Do you want to know what I learned today? And have what I call a focus friend. And a focus friend is somebody who's that for you, that person that could keep you accountable to things. We mentioned the other day about working out and movement, how movement is very important to keep your focus and concentration, but having someone to work out with keeps you more accountable. So do you have a focused friend? And maybe you could find a focused friend through this, and find somebody who's very interested in doing this program or learning what you're learning in this program. You could also connect with people in this program, in this community also as well, and find a focused friend, a focused buddy. Number 2 is, for years I've been part of masterminds, and if you're familiar with the book Think and Grow Rich, and I always recommend books, right? Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, it's the classic, and they talk about the power of a mastermind, and that's where more than one individual gets together that are like-minded, and they set goals, and they help each other, they share best practices, and they hold space for our goals and our dreams together. So a mastermind is something that I have in my life and have had for years, where I get together with a handful of friends, and we get together once a month at different places, different people's homes, and we rotate, or if we're at a distance, we go on Skype or Zoom or FaceTime, and we get together and we check in with each other at least once a month. And we talk about, maybe you do 15 minutes each. We talk about problems, we talk about passions, we talk about projects, and then we get feedback, because these focus friends, right, that comprise this mastermind, have different perspectives, right? They all have different life experience, and so we get to learn in a very sacred space, where we have a cone of confidence there, and that's part of someone having a level of loyalty and trustworthiness and creating a mastermind. And so that's something that I would encourage you to do, that you could create a mastermind where you get together and you could have centered around a book or centered around a certain training, or even what we're doing right now in terms of quick focus blueprint. And so create a mastermind. And then finally, the third thing I would say is, besides a focus friend, besides creating a mastermind of 2 or more individuals that meet regularly and share best practices, encourage each other, is get a coach if it's possible. Hire a coach. And I'm really big on coaches. For my whole life, adult life, I've paid for coaches, a voice coach, a business coach, a personal trainer, anyone who has an expertise in an area. They've been and they've gone through what you've gone through, and they've gone to where you want to go, and they can help you get there faster with less stress and more peace of mind. And hiring a coach, like a focus coach, somebody to keep you focused on your business, somebody that understands financials, someone who understands health, right? Maybe a health coach, but they help you to keep your consistency, and they help to maintain your concentration, which obviously this is a focus program. And so those are the 4 things, the 3 things I just said in terms of action steps: find a focus friend, mastermind, and a coach. And right before that, I talked about going through your friends and family, maybe doing a little bit of an audit with those questions, about whether that they challenge you, or do they let you coast? Are they calling you out on, when you're out of integrity? Do they question you? Do they root for your success? Do they mourn your failures, and so on? And here's the other thing. And while it's ideal to be around really great people and the 5 people that you're the average of and so on, it's also necessary to have critics in your life. So I'm not saying that everyone doesn't serve a purpose. It's useful to have people in your life that are maybe your frenemies, if you will, that because they take you to different places that maybe your positive peer group won't take you. And they can also be a source of lessons also as well. So I would just reinforce that. And so who you spend time with is who you become. You change your life by consistently and consciously choosing to surround yourself with people who believe in you, and they believe in who you want to be, and they believe in your dreams. And so my question for you today in the comments is, what do you think about these 4 things? Do you have someone or some people in your life who meet the criteria? And what other criteria would you add to this list? And I would love to know your comments there. And I'd encourage you to remember, it's also not the amount of friends you can count on Facebook and everything. It's not the amount of friends you can count. But for me, it's always been the ones you can count on. And so we are counting on you, and you can count on us. And I'll see you tomorrow.